Hello and welcome to the That's So Craven podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham, and we are absolutely buzzing to be here after yet another dominant display over our West London neighbours. That's right, Fulham have stung Brentford with a 3-1 win at the Cottage under lights, absolutely swatting the bees for the third time in a row. It was a beautiful game from front to back, a performance that left us all smiling, not quite Marco, but we'll get to that at some point. So settle in, let's pollinate your ears with everything from the day. I am joined today by Mark. How are we, Mark?
Well, first off, new mic, same Mark. And I only got one question for you, Jack, and that question is, who put the ball in the Brentford net?
And he's done it. I think I saw a stat that it's like 7 goals now against Brentford for Harry Wilson. Definitely 4 in his last 3. An insane record when you look at it. And we were all talking pre-match about the selection for this game and the fact that Kevin got left out of the starting lineup. Wilson's probably someone who you might have actually slipped out of the starting lineup, and it kind of makes sense when we play Brentford just never to drop Harry Wilson, because he does put the ball in the Brentford net over and over and over again. And on the other wing, Alex Iwobi had easily his best game of the season so far. We'll obviously get into all of that, Mark, but you were at the game. Just give us your overall feelings on the atmosphere beforehand. I know there's been a lot of talk about the atmosphere not being wonderful at the Cottage over the last couple of years, and you feel like maybe for a derby, it should be absolutely buzzing. How was it yesterday?
Yeah, so I was there in the Johnny Haynes, met up with the lads beforehand, so Skibby and Dave and Mike also on the pod. We hit up the Chancellors, had some lovely pizza as well as a few pints before. But I thought the fans did themselves proud, to be honest. We were rocking pretty much the entire time. Yes, there was a little bit of, we'll touch on it eventually, but when Kingy made the mistake, it was a bit sad. But you know what? Everyone rebounded. The team rebounded. The fans rebounded. We were singing pretty much the entire game. So I was really, really proud of the atmosphere. I think everyone from obviously the Hammy end, but the Riverside, even the Johnny Haynes pitched in a little bit. We were singing. We were on our feet. So everyone was up for it. And I think that really reflected.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's talk about, well, firstly, I guess everyone being up for it pre-game. A lot of grumbles going around, let's be perfectly honest. We saw the lineup come out. It was an unchanged lineup from the Leeds game. And, looking back on Leeds, it was a pretty dire performance, let's be honest. We got away with one there. 1-1-0, but it was not pretty. It was not polished. It was not good, to be blunt. Were you surprised? I was definitely surprised, but what were your thoughts when the lineup got announced and we saw no changes, especially the big one and the big talking point being Kevin not making his way into the starting lineup?
Yeah, look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I wasn't surprised because Silva, I feel, has become more conservative. This is not the Silva that we first got when we started. And yes, we were swashbuckling in the championship and, we went a man down against Huddersfield and he put another attacker on. I think this Silva is a lot more pragmatic in the Premier League. And yes, Kevin had an amazing cameo and it was great to see him on again. He still did a lot of what we expected him to, take his man on, be dynamic, be exciting. But at the same time, and there are positives to this, I don't think Silva does play favorites, but I don't think he's very volatile in his selections. So I think he likes to play it safe. He likes to go with the players he trusts. And like I said, I don't think it's a bad thing that a player can have a bad game and they don't immediately get dropped, right? Because you should give someone a bit of time to not quite settle in, but to like prove themselves, right? And if a player's had 2 or 3 bad games or longer, then yes, you start having serious conversations about who should be challenging for that spot or replacing them. But I think this time it's come good, right? Iwobi was, I'd say, pretty much terrible. Don't know whether it was Leeds or United, but one, or maybe even both those games, he wasn't very good. But he's come good this time round. Same with Wilson. I'm gonna put my hand up and say I was right with the rest of the lads. I wanted to see Kevin start. There were even some murmurings about Chuku starting, but I think that would have been really crazy for Silva. But yeah, look, we got the 3 points. We won emphatically We didn't just edge it over the line. And our top scorer is own goal, which is fantastic. If we could get 3 matches in a row with own goal coming good for us, that's been our best signing to date.
Absolutely. And look, I completely agree with you. I think in terms of Kevin not starting, as you say, I wasn't surprised either. I would prefer to see him start 100%, but knowing the way Marco operates, you are not surprised. And I was talking to Dad about it earlier, and basically saying I can understand if you're not fully confident in Kevin being fully bedded into the system yet. He's a great impact player to come off the bench. I mean, the problem I have with the selection is I was saying he'd be a great impact player if you're a Man City or a Man United or a Liverpool where you've got really quality players in front of him. But let's be perfectly honest, Fulham have good wingers in Wilson and Iwobi who are starting the games at the moment. But Kevin is clearly a better player. And I think we don't really have the luxury to be able to leave our probably best technical player on the bench for much longer, especially once he comes into the team more regularly and starts actually performing more regularly. I think if he continues to sit on the bench, there's got to be some questions asked about Marco and what kind of message he's trying to send at that point, because there definitely seems to be a bit of a message being sent. We see that in his pre-match and post-match comments. There was talk about, I can't remember who asked the question about Iwobi potentially playing in centre mid, and Marco basically saying, I'm not doing that because we wanted to buy players and we didn't get players, and he's not a central midfielder. And it sort of begs a question as to how long you can continue to hold that stance at the detriment of the team potentially. So, look, I also wasn't surprised. The other surprise, though, what I was surprised by, was Robinson being left out entirely. Now, I don't know if you saw any of the pre-match comments from Silva saying Robinson had recovered a little slower than expected from surgery. Is that a bit of a worry now that Robinson's still not making his way into the first team? What, not even on the bench as well?
I wouldn't quite classify it as a worry yet. It is. I mean, he's had all of summer to recover, which is curious, right? I think we're just playing it safe. We know that Robinson is a nailed-on starter when he's 100% fit. And he's a huge, not just defensively, but also offensively, right? On the left-hand side, he really brings the whole thing together with his overlapping runs. So I think there's no need to rush him back yet. But it would be nice to see him at least against Cambridge, right? Ease him into the game and then see whether we can utilize him going forward after that. But I think Cess has done himself pretty proud. I'd still pick a 100% fully fit Robinson over Sessegnon. Don't get me wrong there. But so far, so good. We have depth there. We have Castagna. We have Bassi or Cuenca who can play there as well. So I'm not very worried, but I would like to see some progress on that because he's a key player for us, and it's taking longer than expected.
Yeah, 100%. And look, let's get into the game a little bit, but to touch on that, I thought Cess has been superb actually at left back, filling in so far this season, and he had another really good game yesterday. But let's talk about, I guess, looking at this first 20 minutes, I thought Fulham got off to a really, really good start. Brentford definitely looked the second best side for the majority of the afternoon, but especially having had what I'd classify as a pretty poor performance against Leeds, to see us get off to that start against Brentford was really promising. Unfortunately, all sort of, well, it looked like it could have been a bit catastrophic. After 20 minutes, ball gets played into Josh King's feet, and a sloppy attempted sort of look away pass across the face of goal gets quite easily intercepted by Damsgaard, who has a pretty simple task at that point to put the ball past Leno. Mark, thoughts on that moment? Josh King should do better there. Do we have to just attribute all the blame to King and just move on from that?
I want to touch on this a little bit because it was a key moment. Yes, it was a sloppy pass, right? And it wasn't really hit with any real pace or venom. So it gets intercepted. That's pretty clever from Damsgaard. Damsgaard is one of the few players on the Brentford squad that I think he's pretty good, right? And then he has a simple job after that. But what I really want to highlight is how professional and resilient the team was after that moment happened. Silva mentions it as well. There's no finger pointing, there's no blaming, there's no hands in the air. They pick up the ball, they go straight back to the center point, right? They kick off again, and the fans were part of that as well. They were brilliant. They were brilliant. We just started cheering probably 2-3 seconds later. We support our team, and I think that really carried through, right? It's almost like they didn't score after that. We just went back to dominating the game a few minutes later. So yeah, it was unfortunate. These things happen. I think that's a sign of a strong team when you can put it behind you and just keep playing. So I'm happy. I'm happy with how we responded.
Yeah, and like Com says here, and I noticed this as well when watching it. I did wake up at 3 a.m. for this game, and I was very glad that I did. But how good was it that near enough every Fulham player came over and gave him a pat on the back, and you could see as soon as he made that error and realised that it had cost the team, head in his hands instantly. And it was really, really good to see so many players going over to him and just not consoling him as such, but actually just geeing him up and getting around him and saying, look, don't worry about it, let's move on. And a question that we got in, I'll do questions at the end, but a question that I would like to touch on now from Skibby: how impressed were or weren't you with Josh King's bounce back after his error? Because, young kid makes a big error, costs a goal. It's not just a misplaced pass that you can brush off. It's something that could easily affect someone who doesn't have that much first team experience to make that big an error in a derby game. And obviously, being at Fulham for such a long time, Josh King understands the importance of a derby against Brentford. How did you think he reacted after that mistake?
I think he handled it pretty well. To be honest, he was still chasing balls. He was still playing well. The thing that impresses me with King is he always seems to know when he can't take an extra touch, and he manages to carry the ball around players as well. So I don't think he let it. Yeah, obviously in the moment he was probably devastated, right? But like Colm said, people coming together, the teammates sort of patting him on the back, and he just kept playing. And that is impressive for an 18-year-old not to get super hung up. A super professional, super resilient. I was really pleased with his attitude after that. I don't know, what you have anything to add to that, or what's your thoughts on it?
100% agree. I think it's one of those moments where you could see a young player crumble, to be perfectly honest. I think it would be easy at that point for Josh King to just go into his shell or overdo it and try really hard to win every challenge, win the ball back, and really get himself back into the game. And I think he did really well to control himself in that moment. And I think you have to put that down to the people around him. I saw Bassi talk to him a lot. I saw Anderson as a captain talk to him a lot. And everyone just get around him and I guess keep him calm and continue to instill that confidence in him that he has the ability to bounce back from it. And now it's not about going too hard. It's not about going into your shell. It's just brush it off and continue to play in the same manner. And I have to say, for such a young kid, he did such a good job. And it was really good to see when he came off later in the game, the big round of applause that he got from the entire crowd. It was great to see everyone get around him and just sort of send that message to him saying it's all good, especially at that point where we're 3-1 up. So it does make life a little bit easier. Look, after that, I think Fulham in recent years have really struggled going one goal down, especially since we've been back in the Premier League. We do seem to drop our heads a little bit sometimes and maybe let conceding a goal affect us. I don't think that happened yesterday. What were your thoughts? How did you think we responded?
Great point. I mean, I remember the Scott Parker era, right? We were just hanging on for the draw over and over again. And the moment the goal went in, whether it was in the first half or whether it was 5 minutes from the death of the game, just the team would always look so deflated. Yeah. So deflated. And I saw none of that yesterday. I loved how quick we are to pick the ball up from the net, put it back, and then kick off again. And this I think is a real sort of testament to the mentality that Silva has instilled in the squad. And we know we're good. That's the thing. When we're firing, we're a threat to pretty much every team in the league. And Brentford weren't firing yesterday. They were basically hanging on. I'd say two or three of their best chances were capitalizing on our mistakes. They didn't really
Mm.
create a whole bunch other than the long throws that we knew were coming and that we handled very, very well. So,
Yeah.
yes, the team banded together. We recovered very quickly, but I think they also knew, like, hang on, we can get at these guys. They haven't done a whole bunch. It's been us pretty much 95% of the time. So it was almost inevitable that we would come back and equalize.
Yeah, and look, it was a really well taken goal as well. One thing I noted during the game, and it sort of results in this goal, but something that we haven't seen from Silver's sides over the last couple of years is long distance shots. Especially,
Hmm.
you do see them occasionally from the edge of the box. Wilson attempting to curl one in. Willian often tried it as well. Not that often. Tom Kearney does as well, but then a number of times Lukic and Berger as well,
Yep.
and Iwobi sort of running towards the box and from sort of 25 yards out actually having a pop on goal. And the goal actually comes from Lukic doing that, attempting
Yep.
to create a bit of space and having a bit of a pot shot. And maybe it's a look at, Kelleher, and maybe we're saying, he's actually not that good a goalkeeper and we should actually test him from distance. The ball takes a massive deflection, goes up high. I think Muniz does really, really well to just cause a bit of a faff. I think it's Collins who he sort of challenges and then steps off. Collins therefore doesn't jump for the ball and challenge it. Pinballs around a bit. I think Muniz actually walks away with the assist here somehow
Hmm.
because it ricochets off the side of his head or his shoulder, falls to Iwobi, who calmly puts the ball in the back of the net with an equaliser after 38 minutes. Mark, you were obviously in the stadium. Did you feel there was a bit of a shift at that point that, it reinstilled that calm around the stadium that, this game was still within our reach?
It felt very deserved, and I think
Mm.
it definitely helped the crowd a little bit as well because we didn't want a repeat of yes, we won that, right, with two Wilson goals in extra time, but we didn't want a repeat in general of the last time they were at the Cottage, which was one sort of, okay, it was a good shot. I don't want to call it fluky because that's disingenuous, but sort of one good moment from Brentford and then them just holding on and holding on and holding on and parking the bus. But yeah, the first point you raised, I think, is really important. I didn't see it that much from Berger, so maybe I missed that. But Lukic was definitely taking shots outside the box, and
Mm.
I even said it to my mate who I brought to the game as well. I was really encouraged by this because we never do this, and we talk
Yeah.
about it all the time. God, I wish our 8 and 6 were goal threats, right? Okay, it didn't work this time round. Might work next time or the match after that, right? So an additional threat, and you're right. That causes the confusion. Muniz is there causing chaos. Collins doesn't get rid of it properly. And this is the Iwobi that we had last season that is composed,
Mm.
canny, right? And he has the skill and the know-how to sort of make things happen. And he does that for the next goal as well. But right place, right time, takes advantage of the confusion and puts it past Kelleher, who I don't really know if he's that much of an upgrade on Flecken. And if you follow our podcast, you know my thoughts on Flecken.
If you were in our group chat, we'd know your thoughts on Flecken because every time they conceded a goal, we'd get a message saying Flecken question mark. And for a while, I actually forgot that Flecken wasn't playing for Brentford anymore because you kept mentioning him so much. You've got some explaining to do there, I reckon, Mark. But let's move on to the second goal because it comes, I think it's 98 seconds later. And look, it's great work. There's a couple of instances here that were really impressive. Firstly, Josh King's little backwards flicked header that
Mm-hmm.
sets Muniz away. Muniz drives forward and plays the ball out to Iwobi, then continues his run, which actually creates this perfect channel. And I almost took a screenshot because there's a moment there where there's a bank of three Brentford defenders and then a massive channel, or not a massive channel actually, it's quite a narrow channel, and then
Mm-hmm.
three more
Mm-hmm.
Brentford players, and it's the perfect spot for Iwobi to place that ball through to Wilson. It's like he's got, it's like the Red Sea's been parted literally, and all he has to do is slide the ball through that gap, and Wilson takes it first time so perfectly into the corner. It is a superb goal, and obviously we're watching it from Australia. Halftime, Dimitar Berbatov is in the studio, and he was gushing. And the best thing is hearing Berbatov saying, we just scored a brilliant goal. We're better than Brentford so far today. Hearing him talk about Fulham and really representing Fulham, and every pundit was talking about how beautiful that goal was as a team goal. It's a super ball by Iwobi, who had just scored, so he's got a goal and assist within 90 seconds. And Harry Wilson, like you said, puts the ball in the Brentford net. But it's a brilliant finish. I was about to say Flecken has no chance. Kelleher has no chance. It's right in the corner. First time he's wrong footed, and Fulham go from 1-0 down within 90 seconds to 2-1 up. Mark, your thoughts on the goal, because it was flowing, beautiful team football from Fulham there.
Can you imagine how much the mainstream media would not shut up about this goal if it was United who scored it? It would be plastered on. It would be goal of the century or something like that.
That was exactly what was being said from the studio. Berbatov was saying, if Man City scored this goal, we would not stop talking about it, because it's such a great ball from Iwobi. It's such beautiful team movement from King and Muniz, and the finish is world class. It's a great goal, and on that point as well, Iwobi and Wilson are two players who a lot of the fan base are sort of baying to be dropped in favour of Kevin and Chukwueze. Do you think that competition now for places leads to these kind of quality moments?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, more competition is always good, right? And I think the goal that we saw is a real showcase for how entertaining and talented the Premier League can be, right? Because everyone needs to play a part there. Muniz needs to play a part there as well, even after he's passed the ball off to Iwobi, because he draws the defenders towards him and he sort of creates that uncertainty. And this is what I think a lot of the fans have been crying out for. We have our attacking movement and moments, but we rarely do everything first time. And that time we did, and it shows you that's how you break down five at the back or a low block, right? You take everything first time. It may not always come off, but that's the sort of trade you need to make between control and possession versus risk and taking your chances, right? And maybe that doesn't come off half the time, but this time it did. And what a pass from Iwobi. Straight into Wilson. Wilson first time. Love it. Absolutely love to see it. I hope it does create more competition. And I hope, you know what? So long as we win games, I don't really care which wingers we have to do it. I'm just hoping that this wasn't a fluke and it keeps Kevin and Chukwueze out longer than they need to be. Because we know that Silva is conservative, and we know that Silva doesn't like to change the team unless he absolutely has to. But you're right in that, you mentioned it earlier in the pod, Kevin is most likely our most technically proficient player. We bought him for a record fee. We should be playing him, right? But it's tricky, right? Because when you get results, do you really want to mess with the formula? So it's a good headache to have, and I hope we get to see them both play, and have a significant role against Cambridge, which can in itself be its own showcase of talent there.
Yeah, well, we'll touch on Cambridge because there's a few interesting things to talk about there. But look, halftime 2-1 up. It's looking comfortable, to be honest. I don't think Brentford looked threatening, as you said. The long throws I think we dealt with very well, and we'll talk about why we dealt with those so well a little bit later. But Brentford going forward did not look overly threatening. I thought Tete and Cess both had good games out wide. Defensively, Bassi and Anderson I thought were brilliant yesterday as well. And Berger and Lukic seemed to break up a lot of stuff through the middle. I thought, just in general, Brentford didn't look like they were going to win that game. And considering the fact that their goal only came from a Josh King mistake, I don't think they created a huge amount after that. Apart from that one straight from the throw, which almost went through Leno's legs. Leno got a bit fortunate there, I'd say. Second half, 5 minutes in, it's really good work again from Ryan Sessegnon. Gets down the left, drops the shoulder beautifully and just forces, I think is it Coyote out wide there? Just loses him for that half a second, which gives Cess the opportunity to put the ball into the box. It
Yep.
then almost, I think it's Vandenberg who goes for the header and misses it. Muniz seemed to expect it to be intercepted and so didn't really challenge for the ball. And obviously Pinnock at the back post as well was expecting it to be intercepted. Yet again, another weird own goal for Fulham. The ball comes off the side of his head onto his shoulder, loops over Flecken. Not Flecken. Yeah, you've done it to me, Mark. Loops over Kelleher in goal. Top corner once again. Fulham go 3-1 up. At that point, after 50 minutes, it did kind of, to me, feel like it was game over. Did it feel like sort of party atmosphere in the stadium at that point as well?
I think the crowd were just kind of in shock. I mean, it's fortunate to have one own goal that wins you the match last week, and then to get another one against a fan base who are absolutely foaming at the mouth to beat us. Like they're just obsessed. But yeah, I mean, it's fortunate. It felt good. It was a bit of a weird one as well. Don't worry about the Flecken thing. Brentford are notorious for getting extremely mid keepers and gassing them up like they're amazing, and then it turns out they're mid again. What a surprise. So yeah, I mean, that was it. It happened. And you know what? I do think, even with Leeds, you create your own luck, right? It was Cess putting in that hard work, getting the cross into a dangerous area. I think other pundits have said it as well. But that's how you get goals, and they all count. Whether it's a rocket from like £100 million player from outside the box, or whether it comes off someone's butt or head or shoulder accidentally, if it crosses the line, it counts. We made that happen, so full credit to our attacking prowess as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I guess at that point, it really did, for me at least, feel like Brentford were not getting back into the game. You could see their heads drop when you concede a goal like that and have played the way they're playing so far. They weren't creating anything going forward except for when they got throw-ins. And even then, we were dealing with them very comfortably.
Yep.
The next sort of flashpoint in this game is the disallowed goal. And now, Mark, you haven't whinged yet. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to have a good whinge at this one. The ball goes... I watched it back again not long ago. Kenny Tete is the one who sort of lumps the ball forward. It ricochets around a few times. Tete puts it up in the air. Muniz challenges for it. He jumps up a little early, makes contact. Is it Collins he makes contact with? And, look, being, factual here, Muniz's elbow does catch Collins in the face. And he doesn't actually win the ball at all at that point. The ball then comes off Collins, falls to Josh King. Josh King plays the ball through for Muniz, who, Jesus Christ, what a thumping shot that was from Muniz. Let's just acknowledge the goal for a second, because that is an incredibly well-taken goal. Kelleher gets beaten at the near post, and he literally has no chance there. He gets a solid hand to it and cannot keep that ball out. Incredible finish, Mark.
Oh, 100%. That was struck with venom. That was struck like a striker who's going to sign a big, fat, 5-year, juicy contract.
Especially with the celebration afterwards as well, hey?
Oh, the celebration was good. Now, you know this, and I've made no secret of it. I'm actually quite pro VAR. I know it slows the game down. I know it's not perfect. I argue it's implementation and not technology. I think more technology is better. But this really wound me up. Why? Because it seems this season... Muniz has been done twice, both for accidents. I don't think he intended to elbow Collins in the face. He didn't intend to step on Chalobah's foot, right? Those things happened. He's not even looking at them. And the only constant with VAR intervening is Fulham lose out. And that irritates me. Okay, the first one, we got an apology. That's amazing. We can take that apology. We can bank it. Maybe we can use it in the next transfer window as a substitution for 10 million. I don't know, right? This one, yes, if we're being very, very fair, he doesn't get the ball. And he catches Collins in the face. But my problem with this, right, is I think the implementation is so inconsistent. I think if Haaland or Salah does that to Anderson, I don't know if that gets called. Because the bigger fan base have got their goal, right? And it's a great goal. So hopefully it does. Hopefully everyone gets treated equally. But the two times VAR has intervened, it's to take a great goal away from us, and it's getting a little frustrating, especially when it's given on the pitch. So that's my thoughts. I welcome your thoughts. Agree, rebut. Do your thing, Jack.
I'm definitely in your camp. I like VAR, and I agree with you. It's not an issue with the technology itself; it's an issue with the implementation of it and the interpretation of it, and the consistency as well. I think the big thing that was said after the Chelsea apology, if you will, was we shouldn't be re-refereeing games. I think if the referee looks at that in real time and says, "Yep, they challenged for the ball, nothing wrong with it," then play on. It's not a clear and obvious error. I think again, what constitutes a clear and obvious error? Because it's a judgment call on a challenge. Is it an error? No, he's made a call and said, "I think that was a fair challenge." And I think you can still argue that it could be classified as a fair challenge even when looking at it back. It's a tough one for me because, as has been posed, the question if that was Igor jumping and challenged Anderson, elbowed him in the mouth, and Anderson was bleeding, and then Brentford go on and score, I think we'd all be up in arms about it as well, and whinging about the fact that he elbowed Anderson in the face and therefore it should have been chalked out. And so I can understand why he's chalked that out. Interesting thing that you wouldn't have seen being at the game, but watching the coverage live, when it first happens and they show the replay and they ask or they say that it's going to be checked by VAR, the commentators both say, "Oh, look, I see nothing wrong there. He's gone up for the challenge. It's just, it's a physical game. These are the kind of things that happen." And then once VAR does overturn it, both commentators are saying, "Yeah, well, looking at it back, yeah, it's definitely a foul." So it just shows that interpretation can easily swing 1 minute to the next. And it's so hard to decide what to re-referee and what not to re-referee, and what to look at and what not to look at. I think there just has to be a very hard line drawn at some point to say, look, if it's a challenge and it's maybe a little bit questionable, just leave it. Give the referee the power, because I don't think anyone would look at that back and go, that was a clear and obvious error, because it's not. It's a physical challenge. So it's a tough one for me. Am I pissed off? I'm more pissed off for Muniz because I thought it was a brilliant finish. It wasn't going to cost us anything at that point in the game. It's just a shame that Muniz has been playing really well so far this season and only has one goal to show for it. I think he deserves 2 or 3 so far. But look, it's disappointing. But by that point in the game, the game felt like it was already done for us. So fortunately, it didn't actually cost us too much. Going forward in the game, we'll talk about some of the substitutions. Obviously, Marco's been pretty good bringing players off the bench. We saw Kevin introduced in the 67th minute, quite early for Marco, but obviously trying to get some minutes into his legs. Saw Josh King, who was on a yellow card, come off. That pulled Iwobi central and Kevin out on the left. Thoughts on Kevin's performance? Because we obviously saw a little bit more than him than we saw last week, an extra sort of 10 minutes or so. Did you feel it was the same level of excitement and the same level of ability that we saw last time around, or can we maybe temper our expectations a little bit?
I think he's still going to need time to adapt to the Prem. Obviously, there was chance of get Kevin on after the 20th minute, which was pretty funny. I think we're going to come back down to earth a little bit and be a bit more grounded. He was still great. He still easily picked up a tactical yellow from Collins just by beating him once effortlessly. So we're going to see more of that. And I still think he's going to be a great player for us. But maybe let's not put too much pressure on him, right? He's going to come good. He is already good. But not everything is going to be against a very tired Leeds and him beating them, 5 out of 5 times. So I think it was a good performance from him. Many more to follow, I'm sure. And if he keeps picking up or keeps making the opposition pick up 1 or 2 yellows just by trying to stop him, he's already having a huge impact on the game. So very excited to see what else comes from Kevin and hopefully Chuku.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we'll close it out. I mean, it was a great victory, 3-1 win. Let's have a quick look at some of the stats. Possession-wise, Fulham dominating 53% to 47. 14 shots on goal for Fulham to Brentford's 8, both sides with 3 on target. Fulham, similar to last week, 456 passes to Brentford's 398. Just the 2 corners for Fulham. I don't actually remember Brentford having 10 corners for the game, but apparently they did. And 11 fouls for Fulham to Brentford's
I'll jump
13.
in. There was a couple where they were defending, we were defending the corner, and it just kept bouncing out of play. Like Leno would get a hand to it, so it didn't feel like 10, but there was 2 or 3 in a row. So yeah.
And I think from some of the long throws as well, we had sort of deflected headers that went out. Let's talk about man of the match. And look, it was probably one of the games where I think there were a couple of players who played very well. Iwobi was the official man of the match from the Premier League website, and I think it's the classic. He scored a goal and got an assist, so you give him man of the match. It's almost like the people who weren't looking at it just quickly look at the scoreline and go, yeah, okay, he's the best player because he did the most things for my fantasy team. But I think also Lukic had a very good game. Man of the match, though, I think it clearly was Joachim Andersen. We saw him walk away with 11 clearances, which I think is insane for a player. I think he had 8 last week, but to get 11 this time round is brilliant. And obviously that contributed mainly to our brilliant defending of all of those long throws. He had 4 tackles and interceptions, an 87% pass completion rate. And the only person who had more meters, in fact, no, sorry, he had the most meters gained. He had the second most passes for the game. Personally had more passes, Kenny Tesse. Very random, but very, very progressive from Anderson. He, put the long ball over the top to Cess for the 3rd goal as well, and just dominant aerially. We seeing the return of Anderson from, his first spell at Fulham now, do you think?
I think this is the Anderson we bought, right? Or wanted to buy. A leadership figure, defensively solid, and that attacking threat with those beautiful, accurate, long-range diagonals. That's what we're looking for. And he showed up today. I think giving him the captain's armband is good. It's given him extra motivation. And one thing I like about Anderson, and to a degree, it should be every player on our team, right? But he really cares. He really, really, really cares. And the moment I realized this was actually his first stint with us under Parker, where we were playing, I believe, at the Emirates, and they score like a 90+7 because of course they do, because of course they get bloody 8 minutes on to equalize, and we finish 1-1. There's a video of Anderson going down the tunnel, and out of pure frustration, he kicks one of the bins. And like, I know we were going down, I know we played rubbish football under Parker, but this is a sign of a player that really cares and wants to give everything to the club. And I think by sort of acknowledging that, giving him the captain's armband, because he is one of the more mature, one of the calmer heads on the field. Now he can go and speak to the ref instead of Leno. I'm really, really happy with his performance. And I'm hoping, back when we made the deal and Palace signed Lacroix, and after his injury, he wasn't quite the same. Anderson, that is. We were wondering, did we lose the deal? Did Palace win the deal? And Anderson as well with the 5-year. But if he keeps playing like this, then amazing for us. Money well spent.
No, I agree. It's definitely looking like the Anderson of old. And I think I agree with you there. As captain, he's just a very good pick. You see him talking to the referee a lot and having quite calm conversations with the referee, which is good. But he's a presence on the field. And I genuinely see it as, pretty perfect that he will become club captain when Tom Cairney finally steps away from Fulham, because it just makes sense. He's only 29 and a half or so he'll be 30 at the end of the season. He's got a good sort of 3 or 4 years left at Fulham, you'd hope. And I can see him being a long-term club captain for us at this point, it's just great to have a player like that who's playing at the top of his game at the moment and looking really, really good. So, Anderson, quite clearly man of the match in my book at least, and I think for most people they'd probably agree. Mark, I want to talk now about. Sorry, get my hands all in the way, but I want to talk about the game on Tuesday night against Cambridge United. So, Carabao Cup third round. It's a 7:45 kickoff at the Cottage. Now, obviously, we're trying to take this competition seriously, but with the schedule being the way it is, you do have to rotate. I was talking to Dad about this morning and looking at what the potential team could be based on the last couple of games. And I'll just run through it now with you and let you sort of make any comments on your thoughts for this one. We'll have Lecomte in goal, Robinson at left back, Castagna at right back, Cuenca and Diop through the middle. Probably have Kearney and Reed playing in the centre with ESR in front of them. Hopefully we see Kevin on the left and Chukwueze on the right, and then Jimenez most likely up front. Now that is a pretty good starting lineup that I wouldn't be too unhappy with playing a Premier League game. Do you feel like we now have a level of depth that turns us into a very solid mid-table Premier League side and allows us the ability to comfortably make changes? Admittedly, we're playing against a League One side, so it's not ever going to be a huge risk. But do you feel like now that the squad has that added depth that we've been looking for over the last couple of years?
Yes and no. In general, yes. I still think we're light in the midfield. From a quality perspective, yeah, we have the numbers, but like really you want to take out Berger and Lukic and replace it with Kenny and Reedy, that's not going to be anywhere near as effective. I agree with your lineup, but I don't think it'll be Chukwueze. I think it'll be Adama because
good point.
Yeah, Silva likes his established picks. What not bothers me, but if it was someone a bit more threatening, and maybe I'll have to eat humble pie after they put three past us or something like that. But if it was another Premier League team, that would make sense. But I was really rooting for Jonah Kusiasare, I believe, for the Bayern lad, the 18-year-old. I really want him to have a go because he could be our future, right? And I know Raul needs minutes, but at the same time, like, come on, it's with respect, it's Cambridge. Put on the 18-year-olds. We will be fine, especially if the other 10 players are all, okay, not all pushing to start, but 7 of the other 10 players are like could start, right? But I think you're right. It will be Raul, and then Kusiasare will get 15 minutes at the end or some rubbish like that, and I think that's a real mistake. I also think it's a bit of a mistake not to start Chukwueze, but Adama, I'm almost certain he'll start. But yeah, we have good depth in most areas that matter, and I hope we do better than against Bristol. I know it was professional, I know it was casual, but
Want more?
Yeah, Brighton put 6 past Oxford United. Why can't we put 4 or 5 past our opponents? Like, yeah, so that's my opinion.
Well, I mean, you consider the team that we had in the Championship putting 7 past sides in the Championship regularly.
Sure.
Why are we not doing the same against Championship opposition? And I know it is different, but a few questions flying in here. One from Jim on the YouTube live stream. Too soon for Seth Ridgen, and I was going to mention the same thing, basically saying I'd love to see Kusiasare play. I'd love to see Seth Ridgen play. I'd love to see maybe Sam Amissa play as well. I just don't think it's going to happen realistically. And I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that Marco has a squad who he needs for the Premier League, and therefore he needs to keep getting minutes into those players' legs, because it is possible that we will need Jimenez at some point. It's possible Adama will need to make appearances. Kearney and Reed will have to play at some point this season, so it's important to give them those minutes. I'd love to see some of those youth players come through and make appearances. This is the competition where they should be doing that. I just can't see it happening. An interesting point here from Steve. Kevin will be rested unless needed. Adama starting with Chukwueze on with 20 minutes to go. Possibly Cuenca on left-back duties, which could be interesting as well. So definitely some things to consider there. Give me a prediction, Mark, for the Cambridge game.
3-0. I think we'll put a little bit more effort on in the game, and I think they are a league lower than than Bristol City, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that shift, that change in quality will show. Great point about Seth Ridgen. Love to see him on here, but I mean, I sometimes wonder what's the harm, right? If we've taken the sting out of the game because we're already 2-3-0 up with 30 minutes to go, what's the harm? Like it, yeah. But maybe Silva wants to make a point to management, right, by keeping Kenny and Reed on until they're blowing with like 15 minutes to go and saying they're blowing here in a cup match. Imagine what they're going to be like against Arsenal or City.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very true. Look, we've covered everything that I want to cover. We do have some questions from the Discord, though. I'll throw to this first one from DJ Welly. Before I do, though, if you haven't already joined our Discord, make sure you do. You can find the links everywhere. The main link is on our Twitter page, so please check it out and jump in. First question, do Fulham need to run 3 goal of the month contests, a standard one, an own goals one, and a robbed by VAR one? Mark?
Great question. It's certainly looking like it, isn't it? And some of these own goals have been quality. I'll be greatly entertained if we get another 2 or 3 throughout the rest of the season. But we've shown more attacking impetus, which is impressive because we haven't even used our attacking players that we've bought that much. So that's encouraging to see. But yeah, the VAR ones, it's just, we've chatted about it, but it's getting a little bit painful, especially when they're beautiful goals as well. The Mooney's goal and the Josh King goal, they're good goals and ruled out for effectively accidental fouls. It's disappointing.
And it's true. I think either of those goals could easily win you a goal of the month competition as well. So it could be quite funny if we include that one and we have 2 ruled out goals as our goals of the month so far this season. But fair question. One coming in here from Fulham Fan News, and we've sort of touched on it a bit, but I'll get you to sort of try and definitively answer it for me. Is Anderson one of those players that just goes up a level when given extra responsibility? For example, with the captain's armband.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. We have touched on it, and I think he even had it under Parker, right, for maybe half a season or so. So
yeah.
I think he relishes it. I think he sees himself as a leader. So us validating that, because it's true, he is a leader. He does carry himself well, and it's good to have someone that you mentioned, Jack. It's good to have someone that's calm and. Because referees are human beings too, right? And I'm not trying to defend bad decisions, but you're never going to convince someone by shouting at them and calling them stupid. They're not going to suddenly be like, you're right, I am an idiot. I'm going to give you the next decision, right? You need someone to say, all right, that happened. Can you explain why? Because it feels like the last 3 instances, we haven't gotten the calls, right? And then you just kind of, there's a way of negotiating and there's a way of sort of influencing referee behavior without being overly aggressive or unprofessional. So I think Anderson's really come good there. Like I said, he carries himself like a leader. He speaks like a... Even when you look at his social media, he's not overly exuberant, but he does demonstrate sort of a togetherness and a pride in the team. So I'm very pleased with him as our captaincy pick now and for the immediate future.
Yeah, I'd agree with that entirely. I think he's captain material. He's one of those players that you just look at him and go, yep, he's a captain. And I think the players respond really well to him being captain as well. So just makes sense. Final question before we wrap up from Skibby. Are Brentford the new QPR?
They're certainly playing like it from what we saw yesterday. It doesn't help that they're dressed like a very tired looking UPS delivery team. So I don't know who chose that. Like, I know we got some sort of, I don't know if I call it criticism, but it was polarizing, right? The lime green away kit was polarizing, but that away kit for Brentford, good God, like that's underpaid intern material. So that was not good.
Not good.
But they need, I think Keith Andrews is getting found out. The only tool they had was long throws, and we defended them superbly. Right? They had about one semi-good chance in the 9th minute that we discussed from it, and other than that, smooth sailing. And it just goes to show you can't just throw someone in there. The biggest loss for them, I firmly believe, Mbueno was a loss, Whistle was a loss, Norgard was a loss, Flecken was a great sale. conned someone into buying him, Leverkusen, I think. But it's Frank. Thomas Frank was their biggest loss. Just like Marco Silva will be our biggest loss if he doesn't sign again. So, yeah, Andrews is getting found out. Are they the new QPR? Let's hope so.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. They do not look the same side they were a few years ago. And to be fair, when you lose Mbeumo and Wissa and Norgard, who scored the majority, I think they scored 66% of their goals last season, have all been sold. And they just do not look like scoring goals at the moment. Igor is struggling. And I had a quick browse through Brentford fans' social media just to see what the sort of sentiment was. And they are not happy with the way they're playing football at the moment. And fair enough, because it is pretty dire. It was a poor Brentford side, and one comment here from Steve on the live stream, a chant, "You're shit, but you wear it well." And yeah, look, they were not good yesterday, and maybe they really are the new QPR for us. Could be in serious trouble come the end of the season if they continue to play like that.
100%.
Look, Mark, I think we can wrap it up there. It was a great derby win, a great way to make it 2 on the trot, push us up. We're currently 7th in the table, I believe. Could change with some results overnight, but at this stage, it's looking good before what does look like a little tough run of fixtures. But looking forward to seeing what happens in the game against Cambridge on Tuesday night. Should be really interesting to see what team we put out and what kind of performance we come up with on the night. So, Mark, thank you very much for joining me today.
Jack, always a pleasure. And always happy to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you to everyone who's joined us on the live stream. As always, we really appreciate the questions and the comments coming in. Do jump into our Discord if you haven't already. It is a great Fulham community with great people talking all things Fulham all the time. Make sure you check out. You can find the links in our bios across all our social media. Mark, I'll throw to you to wrap it up. You've got that brand new mic, so get nice and close and give us a big U Whites to finish it off.
U Whites!